Where you lead me, I will go. Who can I love today, sweet Spirit? Who can I love today? Oh Lord, speak in ways that I will understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. How can I serve today, sweet Spirit? How can I serve today? Oh Lord, speak in ways that I will understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. How can I love today, sweet Spirit? How can I love today? Oh Lord, speak in ways that I will understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. How can I serve today, sweet Spirit? How can I serve today? Oh Lord, speak in ways that I will understand. Where you lead me, I will follow. Where you lead me, I will go. Oh, thank you, Linda. Awesome. Welcome to Kitchen Conversations. We're glad that you are here virtually. I'm knowing that there are bodies here physically. And I'm glad to have you here. We have a lot of wonderful things happening tonight. And so first, let's start with a blessing. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, let's just take a moment right now and take this breath. We take the breath of now. This now awareness, this now opportunity to check in, to dive in to the all magnificence that is God. Taking this time to refuel, refresh, and vibrate at the divine level of alignment. In this alignment, in this divine ease and grace, letting go of the day and tuning into the now breath. In this breath of now, everything is supplied. In this breath of now, all is well. In this breath of now, there's divine connection with Source. I give thanks and praise for this breath, for this now, for this moment, for this divine opportunity to acknowledge that I and my Father are one. And so it is. I love this song, and I think that it's so in alignment with things that are happening right now. Ooh. If war is holy and sex is obscene, then we got it twisted in this lucid dream, baptized in boundaries schooled in sin, divided by difference, sexuality and skin. Oh, so we can hate each other and fear each other. We can build these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow and brick by brick. Keep yourself locked in, yourself locked. Yeah, we can hate each other and fear each other. We can build these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow and brick by brick. Keep yourself locked in, you're locked in. Oh, maybe we should love somebody. Hey, maybe we should care a little more. So maybe we should love somebody instead of polishing the bombs of holy war. What if love is holy and hate is obscene, and it wasn't twisted in this lucid dream? Baptizing boundaries, schooled in sin. Forgiveness is the only real revenge. Oh, so we could heal each other and feel each other. We could break these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow and brick by brick. Keep yourself open, open. Yeah, we could heal each other and feel each other. We could break these walls between each other, baby, blow by blow and brick by brick. Keep yourself open, open. Oh, maybe we should love somebody. Hey, maybe we should care a little more. So maybe we should love somebody instead of polishing the bombs of holy war. What if love is holy and war is obscene, and it wasn't twisted in this beautiful dream? Living for life, unafraid of the end. Forgiveness is the only real revenge. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah. Thank you, Alicia Keys, for a powerful song that is still present today. Yeah. So there's so much going on and so excitement that's happening because what? We are reopening as all of the world is starting to open up, and we are as well. June 20th, we are opening, and we are going back to 2 gatherings in person. The first one, and I know this is a little bit of a change, but it's at 8:15. That's our sacred service, very relaxing and meditative and pulled back. And then at 10:30, baby, we're rocking it out. We're doing it with the Sounds of Spirit Band and a full house. So I'm looking forward to seeing each of you. June 20th is our opening date, and we're just all excited and working on everything to get that together for you. And the movie of the month. The movie of the month for June is really a powerful movie. American Son, Really great movie, and so much in alignment with a lot of how things and how policing is done today. Great actors and a great storyline. So this month, as always, that's my phone ringing. I think it's back. Oh, it's right there. Let that just add a little extra yeah to you. Uh, so this month, June 18th, we will meet in our community Zoom room and unpack it, discuss it, talk about it, work it out. Next month, and hold for the date. Sarah's killing my phone over here. Thank goodness it's already messed up because she just threw it to the ground like, shut up, phone. What if love was holy, Sarah? And what if cell phones were holy? So next month in July, we will start again movie month, Movie Friday. And we're just looking at which Friday. It may be the third Friday of the month or the fourth. So what that means is that you would come here to the Lions Club and we would join in together like we did once before when we saw, I forgot the name of the movie, but it was so great. There'll be popcorn, there'll be candy, maybe some bottled water. So it's going to be really cool. But this month, American Son, we will discuss on June 18th in our community room, and then next month we will start our Friday night movie of the month live and in person. I'm excited and looking forward to it. Also, really important, and I'm excited to bring this to the community, our transgender training is taking place June 8th. From 6:30 to 7:30, just an hour. We will have Paige Cody, they, them, that's from the LGBTQIA plus community. They will be sharing with us ways that we can support the transgender community, and for me, myself, personally, really getting a better understanding of how to be and what languaging, because for me it is new and maybe for you it's new, and it's no need to be afraid of that. Let's welcome it in. So June 8th, Tuesday, I want us to show up. We're making it very easy. It's on our community room. You just come there at 6:30 and we're going to be on and popping. So I'm hoping that a lot of you will come and show your support, that we stand together, that we are a community that stands for all. So that's June 8th, 6:30, just an hour, transgender training. It's going to be very, very powerful. Also, Reverend Kevin is doing in-person Foundations for Spiritual Living class. This is a powerful class for anyone that hasn't taken it. And even right now, what's so beautiful is to get a refresher of this class, because we need and want these spiritual tools to move us forward in everything that's going on. So please check in with Lee at Universal Spirit Center, and he'll let you know more information about registration. I think what's next? Thank you. The weekly call to action. This is from the Racial Equality Project group. I'm really proud of the work that we've been doing, and it's amazing how it's been a year since George Floyd, since his killing. And so there are things you can go on our webpage, and there are ways that you can support. There's ways that you can educate yourself. There's ways that you can stay in the know. And the weekly call this action is the George Floyd Memorial. So please check that out. Also, as we come back together, you know that means we need you and you and you and you. We need you. We want you. Got to have you. So Bob and Lee are definitely looking for people, actually, this is a stipend position to help with the tear down and set up. I think it's like an hour on Saturday that they do it, and then after Sunday. So please, if this is something that calls to you, I think they had like 40 pounds you may need to be able to lift, but I'm sure you can get away with a little less. You know what I said. Email Lee at Universal Spirit Center, or when you come on Sunday, just say, hey, I want to be a part of this team. We need that love and support. That's what makes the whole community go. And I think my last but not least announcement, I think it is our community prayer room. Yeah, this is so important that we have some amazing practitioners and ministerial students, for our community. This Sunday, June 6th, 7 of you are graduating, including Reverend Sarah over there. Woohoo! They've worked really hard. And the community prayer room is a beautiful way to support you as you're going through whatever, be it joyous, be it overflowing abundance, or be it a place that you're moving from to get to a new space. So every Sunday, and not only on Sunday, 7 days a week, we have practitioners available. Woo! Did I get them all, Sarah? Hey now, hold now, whoo! And so today, I thought for Kitchen Conversations that we would revisit and take a little journey of understanding how racist laws have helped people say that they're being accountable to people of color, that they're only abiding by the law, when the laws from its inception was meant to degrade and to harm. So, as we know with our theme song, until all of us are free, until there is equality, then we're all locked in chains and bonds. You better listen, my sisters and brothers, 'cause if you do, you'll hear the voices that are calling across the years. And they're crying across the ocean, and they're crying across the land. Until we all understand that none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us in chains, none of us are free. Oh, there are people in the darkness, and they just won't see the light. If you don't say it's wrong, that says it's right. We've got to give to each other, show our brothers that we care. Got to get the message out loud and clear that none of us are free. None of us are free. None of us are free. If one of us in chains, none of us are free. 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 None of us. If just one of us is in change, don't you know we will not be free? Sometimes you just feel that way. Oh, all right. So I have a wonderful video to show you. And then after that, we'll jump into it. Stay right there.
The act of waiting around with no particular purpose is called loitering. The act of waiting around with no particular purpose is called loitering, and it's what I'm doing now. Loitering may not seem like a big deal, but when you see black people getting arrested for waiting in the Starbucks or choked for selling cigarettes on the corner, you're looking at the racist history of loitering laws at work. Loitering laws have been around for a very long time, but there's a fine line between loitering and just hanging out, which sometimes leads to selective enforcement. In some places, black people are between 3 to 10 times more likely to be arrested for low-level offenses like loitering than their white counterparts. So where did these laws even come from?
Vagrancy laws and loitering come from Victorian England, and then they were imported to the US, but they take full steam and are enacted aggressively in a post-1865 moment.
After the Civil War ended and slavery was abolished, Southern states passed a new set of laws called the Black Codes. These laws severely restricted the newly freed black population. For instance, former slaves were denied the right to vote and the right to serve on juries. They were also forced to sign yearly contracts with their former owners, and if they refused to sign, they risked being beaten or arrested for vagrancy, which basically meant that being unemployed was a crime.
Loitering, breaking curfew, anything that you would find a newly free population probably engaging in as what would have been considered reasonable activity was deemed illegal and a crime.
These laws set the stage for mass imprisonment of black people and continue to be used against them well into the 20th century. In 1965, civil rights activist Fred Shuttlesworth was sentenced to 6 months in prison for loitering. His crime? Speaking to friends on a sidewalk during a department store boycott in Birmingham, Alabama. In nearby Montgomery, Martin Luther King Jr. was arrested for loitering while trying to attend a friend's court hearing. And in the late 60s, 2 white women and 2 black men driving a car in Jacksonville, Florida, were arrested for prowling by auto, a charge that fell under Florida's vagrancy law at the time. The cops denied that race played a role in the arrest, but when the case was brought before the Supreme Court, Justice Harry Blackmun said the 4 were really convicted for racial intermingling. Florida's vagrancy law was then deemed unconstitutional because of its ambiguity. Over time, other city and state loitering laws were also deemed unconstitutional because of how vague they were. In 1999, the Supreme Court found Chicago's gang loitering ordinance unconstitutional. The vaguely worded law allowed police to basically arrest anyone who looked to them like a gang member.
The purpose of the statute, Your Honor, is to allow the police to attack a form of behavior that criminologists know can contribute to crime in the community, which is the intimidating presence of gang members.
But isn't this actually punishing people for who they are rather than what they've done?
Over the course of 3 years, the gang loitering law had led to about 42,000 arrests of primarily Latinx and black residents. And this sanctioned discrimination extends to other communities. Loitering laws have been used to racially profile Latinx day laborers and have led to arrests over their immigration status. Even the Department of Homeland Security called out this racist practice in 2015, when Louisiana police officers arrested 2 Honduran men for loitering, then reported them to Border Patrol. The courts have ruled over and over against the use of these laws, yet people of color still find themselves accused and abused in the name of loitering.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. It's Splinter. We have a lot more coming up, so make sure to check out our other videos and be sure to follow us on YouTube.
Wow. All right, so let's dive in. I know that we watched the film The 13th, which talked a lot about incarceration. But I know for myself, for a while I thought that racism, to uproot it, we had to change the way people thought, the way they felt about people, to help bridge that gap, and absolutely that is important. But I've come to realize that with laws in place that allow people to hide behind, allow the police to use as excuses and outright lies in a lot of different cases, we have to change legislation. we have to change laws. I didn't show this video, but in Virginia, they have over 100 racist laws that allow lynching, laws that allow police officers to come into someone's home without a warrant if there is speculation that they have committed a crime. Speculation. It's been amazing watching this journey unfold as I started looking at this and wanted to see how did this build? How did this system, this systematic system of racist laws that have allowed people, police officers, to be able to hide behind them? And so I love this question. Someone asked, what is the origin of law? It says, laws are intended to maintain order and promote justice. But what happens when laws are made to hurt? But what happens when laws are made to hurt and condemn people? We see where we are today is what happens. So taking this journey, starting back in the British colonies, during that time, and this was around the 1640s through the 1660s, within the British colony, they had indentured slaves. And so without going through all of it, if the indentured slave was adhered to the master's Christianity, they were less likely to be treated like a slave. They had rights and could do things and could live somewhat of a life. But as more British soldiers and British colonies started popping up, they saw that in order to really have control, they had to enslave. And so it says, the English rights and the Christianity they shared with their masters avoided such punishment. So if the Africans agreed to the masters' spiritual Christianity, they could be looked over. They didn't get punished. But from the 1640s through the 1660s, with the principle of lifelong involuntary servitude established for Africans in colonial America, individual colonies began enacting legislation declaring Negroes sent to the colonies and their offspring slaves for life. Slaves for life. Not just the mama and the papa, but any children that they had. That this was the life. This was your life. Slavery in the British colony America became a punishment for being black. So you see in this space, it started here, and everyone talks about Columbus coming to America, that he discovered it, and we know that he did not. Our Indian brothers and sisters were here, living life. And when the British colony came over, they attacked the Indians. They said, you don't have right to this land. And they had guns, and the Indians had spears, and who would win? So then they started shipping Africans to America. They started shipping slaves, and they called it the chattel slavery, which means that a human being is considered to be property and an enslaved person. Property means that whomever owns that property has all rights to you. You have no no legal ramification. You have no rights whatsoever. So we see, if we just take a moment and look, that there were laws that started in the 1640s that started to build this history of enslaving a people. When you say that someone is a slave for life, that blew me away. That was actually written in a document that was legal and binding, along with the other little tasty notes of not recognizing Africans as human beings, but as animals that needed to be controlled. And so now you have, the plantation masters, the master, that can do whatever. They can rape a woman. They can beat a child. They can beat you. They can torture you. There was no limit to what they could or could not do, because as a black person, you had no rights. But more importantly, as a black person, you were not considered a human being. You were property, owned. They could sell you. When young ladies got of the ripe age of birthing, young men, different plantations would sell you off. So you were literally an object. And to look in the eyes of your child, knowing that what you're bringing forth, this is the road. As punishment for being black began to escalate, that plantation masters would, to gain control, if there was someone that asked a question of their slave master, they would make an example. I remember from the movie Roots, when the scene that Kunta Kinte, they asked him, "What's your name, boy?" And he said, "Kunta Kinte." And they had him strung up. And the slave master gave the head to whip him. Had his shirt off, so they licked him a couple of times. So 3 or 4 times he kept saying Kunta Kinte. And now they had all of the other slaves. They gathered all the slaves around to watch this, because he said, "I'm going to break this boy." It was if he was a horse or an animal that he had to get in alignment, because this, as they call it, this smart N-word, he becomes an infection. He becomes a disease with his other slaves, because he starts thinking that things could be different. The fact that he could read and write was a threat to the slave master, because objects aren't supposed to be able to do that, and nor did they want their objects to do that. And so he beat this boy until you could literally see the skin peeling off of his back. And finally he said, "What's your name, boy?" And I think he said Toby was the name that the slave master had given him. And the man that is whipping him, he beat him so badly that you could see that he was like, "Oh, I don't want to hit him anymore." And after he said the name Toby, the slave master said, "I can't hear you, boy." He told him not it. And the guy, the I forget what they're calling them, but the slave master's beater, He hesitated and he said, I hit him again. Can you imagine that as another human being, at some point, having some sense of compassion or recognizing that this is a human being, this is a living presence, but the way that you are taught to treat them, after a while, you forget. And you think it makes sense after a while, or at least you convince yourself that it does. And so once they had almost beat the life out of him, they let him down. And then slaves are left to gather him up, to heal him, to try to bring him back to life. And so it makes you wonder, with such circumstances, that there is no legal ramification. There's no one that you can go to and say, hey, I need help, because the next farm that you go to is another plantation that they've got slaves. And these slaves were working very, very hard, producing all types of things, and they were creating different inventions and products to help the master be able to harvest quicker, faster, more. So you can imagine when there was this upheaval, when the amendments in 1865, the 13th, 14th, and 15th amendments, they were there to protect black people, but you can't ask people that have been treating people like objects for all these years that automatically, oh, okay, now we see you as equal. Hence the war. And these laws have been manipulated and moved around in so many different ways. So after that, then you see Jim Crow come into place. Oh, and Jim Crow. Jim Crow gives the illusion that you are free without any freedom. So, loitering, vagrancy. You could be standing on a corner and you've broken a law. And there's no one that you can go to. Most of the time at that time, there was no attorney that you could go to, a black person could go to for help. You just went to jail for however long. And so now you've got the jail situation that starts, because now what Jim Crow figured out was like, oh, okay. Now that you are a criminal, we can sell you for free. So before, the lie was, you could work the slave master's plantation and sharecroppers. And I found out, I guess, I don't know, maybe 25 years ago, something like that my grandmother and grandfather were sharecroppers in Mississippi. And I was so shocked, because the picture definitely that I had of my grandmother's this feisty redhead that didn't take any smack at all. Just amazing. And Flora Dawson, she shed her body physique with all of the girls in our family. My grandmother would come walking down the street, and you could hear the guys blowing the horn and honking, and my grandfather say, oh, Flora's home. She was a beautiful woman with 4th grade education. My grandfather, this beautiful black, coal black man, 6'3", 6'4", very quiet man. They were absolutely two opposites attract, because my grandmother was hell raising and fire, and my grandfather was always so laid back and calm. Although my grandmother, if anybody could push him, she was the one that could. And so I remember when I found this out, I was so blown away, and I'm calling my cousins. I'm like, "Did you know Grandmama and Granddaddy were sharecroppers?" And they were like, "What? Nobody told us." And it was at that time that I found out that my grandfather, his mother was full-blooded Cherokee, which is where I get my cheekbones from. And so I remember calling everybody. I was like, we gotta know what this is. Well, why has no one told us about this? And my grandmother's story was that, I don't want to think about that. That none of that was good. I don't want to think about it. I was like, but we want to know. And so she said they worked for the Smith plantation in Mississippi. And it was so much like the movies that I had seen. She washed the clothes, did the sheets, she cleaned the house for something like 25 cents a day. It was some ridiculous money that I don't care if things were 1 cent, you're never going to get out of poverty that way. But the whole thing of sharecropping was that you work the fields and then you were supposed to be able to make enough money to buy your part of land. But here we go again with the laws. Because the laws in that time said that blacks could not own property. And the majority in the South, the majority of blacks that either their families had been slaves and now they were free, everybody was free. So sharecropping was this bridge that was supposed to be, okay, you get to keep this little shack that you live in and you work the land and you get paid from working the land, and then not only are you able to feed your family, but you're able to pay and buy this land for your family. But not when the laws say you can't own property. So the things that would happen, my grandmother explained, every year they would work themselves to the bone. And every time, they never had enough money. Never had enough money. They were always in the hole. So that meant that no matter how many crops they gave, how many crops they harvest, they always owed the Smiths more money every year. Can you imagine that the debt starts out at $3,000? Within 5 years, that debt has doubled, because you never, ever are able to pay the debt off. And then it's not just the Smith plantation. No, it's the stores in town, because you don't have enough money to buy your groceries. So you have a bill there that constantly keeps adding to. And so my grandmother said, she said to my grandfather, she said, "Jeannie, if you go to Mr. Smith and he tell you that we owe him more money," because that's every year, it was never reduced, always more. She said, "We gonna get the hell out of here." So my grandfather went there. This is what the crop did, and it's always, "Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Dawson. I know you worked your heart, you worked your fingers." But they didn't make enough money. And now at that time, my uncle was born, and so was my aunt. And my grandmother, I think she just knew. So she had already started packing. But you had to be really strategic in how you did this, because then they're not just going to be like, okay, letting free labor go. And she said they waited till way in the midnight hour, in the wee hours of the morning. And for the first, she said mile or 2 miles, because they had a little buggy. They put the kids in the buggy, and they walked with the horse for it not to make noise, not to awaken anybody, because there were people on the lookout for families that were doing this. Because families, you know, those that caught on, we're never going to own this property. We will never be nothing more than your slaves. And if you got too boisterous, then they would come up with a law that said you committed a crime, and then you were in the prison system. And once you were in the prison system, you have committed a felony. So now they can sell you out to businesses for free labor. And they pick the time. Whatever, you know, you saw in the video, well, this was in the 60s, where this man got 6 months for loitering, for talking to his friends. That was in the South. And so when they thought it was safe, they got in the buggy and they landed in Memphis, which is where my mom was born. And I remember when we moved, well, I was born in St. Louis. But I remember one of the jokes sometimes would be that my grandmother and grandfather paid for their house 2 times because they couldn't read. I think my grandfather had a 6th grade education. And so they had been manipulated by the person that sold them the house. And my grandmother would always say, but we did. If we paid it twice, it's all right. It's our house now. And that was a really big thing for a black family, to be able to have a home that you owned. That you owned. So we see with Jim Crow allowed groups like the KKK, they could protest and they could have a lynching in the middle of the square. They were the ruler of the land, and they were your politicians. They were your policemen. They were your local Barbara. They were people in the community. So even though you had the appearance of being free, you were humiliated and looked upon as a second-class citizen in every turn. I'm sure a lot of you saw the movie The Help, which is kind of based around that parameter. And you know, it's a great movie, but just so tired of seeing that, but realizing now that we have to keep present to all of this. And as we are really in the melting pot, you know, on YouTube every day, the fact that we are giving notice to all of the racism that's taken place, we're able to shine a light on some of the people that have been killed by the police unjustly, and it had gone under the rug. This young man that was in North Carolina, this happened 2 years ago. And forgive me, I can't remember his name right now. But the cops lied, the sheriff, they lied to the family. They said that the man was high on cocaine and fled from them, and ran into a tree and killed himself. Now, this is how blatant this is. Because you're the police. You have the law on your side. And the coroner, in doing the autopsy, said this can't be right. There's no way that this man could have received the amount of damage to his body had he hit a tree. He was beaten to death. And the coroner said, this can't be right. And so the family for 2 years has been trying to get information, find information, and partially because of Black Lives Matter, because of the intense spotlight that's coming on, finally they got a clip of the video, and it's disgusting. Yes, this man did flee. He absolutely did. But he pulled over and stopped at a point, and you hear him saying, I'm sorry, and the officer is just out of his mind. He calls him the N-word. They pull him out of the car and they start beating him just like he is a dog in the street. And he's saying, please stop. Please, I'm sorry. So I share this with you, not because I want to upset you. I share it with you because we have to keep becoming aware of a legal system that has been tainted for years, that has been misguided for years, and that has had free reign to do what they please. And I know the argument that there are good officers. I have no doubt that there are. But good officers now have to stand up for humanity. Because it wasn't one officer that lied. It was several that took this life of this black man that meant nothing. And they're talking about his blood everywhere. Be careful. I hope this N-word don't have AIDS. I mean, this was caught on tape. So in the last close of Tough on Crime, which was Ronald Reagan's big claim to fame, because of crack cocaine, supposedly, all of these laws have been built around things that allow the law and allow people and politicians to do the unthinkable. We have an incarceration rate of 1.6 million now. We have more people in prison than anywhere in the world. And most of them are people of color. Because of the 3-strike law, tough on crime, cracking down on crack cocaine. You could get 300 times the jail time for crack cocaine versus 5,000 pounds, 5 kilos of powder cocaine. Just so recognizing that legislation matters and that we have to stay vigilant, and we want to make our representation of all people be heard in our political world. Laws do need to be changed, and we must be aware when they're changing laws whom that law is serving. If it's not serving the greater people, if it's hurting a people, then that law is not a law that supports a world for all. So in closing, I just want to say thank you for taking this breath, for spending this time. I know that kitchen conversation sometimes pushes buttons, and this is what we do, so that we can wake up, become aware, and you can decide how you want to support. You can decide what you want to do, but what you will know for sure is that you do have new knowledge. Whether you believe everything I say or not, that doesn't matter. If it causes you to go seek out and find, I love it. Explore. But to do nothing is something that we cannot do anymore. To do nothing, to turn a blind eye, is to turn an eye to humanity. So I thank you and I bless you for your love, for your heart, and for your willingness to continue this journey. I'll see you next week on Awakening Wednesday. And now it is our beautiful conscious giving time. I am so grateful for all of the wonderful lights and love of Universal Spirit Center, those virtually and those that have been a part of our community. Your giving has been amazing. So I thank you for all the giving that you do, all of the magnificence that is you. Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen. Blessed always, blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say amen. Thank you for being here on Kitchen Conversations. Let's send some love to Sarah running the production. Whoop, 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 whoop. And as always, my sweet Linda Ely. Hey, thank you, Linda L. in the house. We'll see you next week on Awakening Wednesday. Hey, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ooh. Praise to God and say amen. Ooh, blessed always, blessed always, all the arms of God surround you. Let our joy be so triumphant and rest in God, and we say,